Captain Ryan Burke watched the green fields of New Eden stretch endlessly below his ship. The farming world looked peaceful from space. 2 million humans lived there, growing food for dozens of worlds. Children played in the fields while their parents worked. It was the kind of place that made space travel worth it. Burke had been exploring the galaxy for 12 years. He commanded the New Horizon, a small research ship with a crew of 30. Today felt different, though. His science officer, Dr. Lisa Grant, had been acting strange all week. She kept checking her data over and over. "Captain, we need to talk," Lisa said as she entered the bridge. Her face was pale and her hands shook slightly. "What I found, it changes everything." Burke turned away from the viewing screen. Lisa was never dramatic. If she was scared, there was a real reason. "What did you find?" Lisa pulled up a holographic display. Strange symbols filled the air between them. "I've been tracking these energy readings for months. They appear near human colonies, then disappear. I thought they were natural phenomena at first. But they're not? No, Captain. They're harvesting beams." Lisa's voice dropped to a whisper. "Someone has been taking genetic samples from every human world. Not just DNA samples, they're taking living tissue, blood, even bone marrow. They're doing it while people sleep." Burke felt cold. "How long has this been happening?" "Based on the patterns, at least 20 years. Maybe longer." Lisa brought up another display. "Captain, they've sampled over 1 million humans. They know everything about our biology, our genetics, even our brain chemistry." The bridge fell silent. Burke's crew had stopped their work to listen. Everyone understood what this meant. Someone had been studying humans like lab animals for decades. "Who?" Burke asked. Lisa hesitated. "The energy signatures match Council technology. Advanced Council technology. The kind only the ruling species have access to. The Galactic Council ruled over 47 species across the galaxy. Humans had joined 37 years ago as junior members. The Council's 12 elder species made all the important decisions. Humans were told to be grateful for their inclusion." Burke activated the ship's communication system. "Get me Admiral Morrison, Priority 1. While they waited for the connection, Burke studied the data. The harvesting had gotten more frequent recently. Whatever the Council was doing, they were speeding up their timeline. Admiral Jack Morrison's face appeared on the screen. The old man looked tired, but his eyes were sharp. "What's the situation, Captain?" "Sir, we have evidence that the Council has been secretly harvesting human genetic material for decades." Burke transmitted Lisa's data. "They've been studying us like laboratory specimens." Morrison's expression didn't change as he reviewed the information. After several minutes, he looked up. "Dr. Grant, how certain are you about this data?" 100% certain, Admiral. The patterns are unmistakable. They've been targeting our colonies systematically. Any idea what they're using it for?" Lisa pulled up another file. "Based on the genetic markers they're focusing on, they're studying our immune systems, our healing rates, and our neural development. These are the areas where humans outperform most Council species." Morrison nodded slowly. "They're trying to figure out what makes us different." "Yes, sir. And Admiral, there's something else. The harvesting operations have increased by 300% in the past year. Whatever they're planning, they're preparing for something big." Burke watched Morrison's face. The Admiral was thinking, calculating. After a long moment, Morrison spoke. "Captain Burke, take your ship to Council Station Alpha. Request an immediate meeting with the full Council. Present this evidence and demand an explanation." "Sir, they'll just deny it." "Maybe, but we need to give them a chance to explain themselves. Record everything. I want a complete record of their response." The connection ended. Burke looked at his crew. They all knew this was dangerous. The Council didn't like to be questioned, especially by humans. 3 days later, the New Horizon docked at Council Station Alpha. The massive station orbited the Council's capital world. It was built to impress visitors with its size and power. Thousands of ships came and went daily, carrying out the Council's business across the galaxy. Burke and Lisa were escorted to the Council chambers. The room was enormous, with seats arranged in a circle. 12 different species sat in judgment. At the center sat Council Prime Zethkar, a 7-foot-tall reptilian creature with golden scales and cold yellow eyes. Humans, Zethkar spoke, in perfect English. You requested this meeting, speak. Lisa stepped forward. She was nervous but determined. Council Prime, we have evidence that Council forces have been conducting unauthorized genetic harvesting operations on human populations. She presented the data on holographic displays. The evidence was clear and detailed. Energy signatures, genetic markers, harvest patterns. Everything pointed to a systematic study of human biology. The Council members studied the information. Some whispered among themselves in languages Burke didn't recognize. Others seemed bored, as if they already knew what Lisa was showing them. Council Prime Zethkar finally spoke. Your data is accurate. The simple admission hit Burke like a physical blow. They weren't even denying it. For 23 years we have studied human genetics, Zethkar continued. Your species possesses certain biological advantages that could benefit the greater galactic community. You've been experimenting on us without our knowledge or consent, Lisa said. We have been improving ourselves using your genetic gifts, Zethkar corrected. Many Council species suffer from genetic decline. Your fresh DNA provides solutions to our problems. You should be honored to contribute to the greater good. Burke found his voice. Honored? You've been treating us like livestock. Zethkar's eyes narrowed. You are a young species. You do not understand your place in the galactic order. Lesser species exist to serve greater ones. This is natural law. We're not your property, Burke said. Are you not? Zethkar stood up. His full height was intimidating. You were granted membership in this council out of mercy. We could have enslaved your entire species. Instead, we allowed you to join us as junior members. And now you complain about making small contributions. To galactic science? The other council members were nodding. Burke realized with growing horror that they all agreed with Zethkar. However, Zethkar continued, your contributions have been insufficient. We require more genetic material to complete our research. From this day forward, each human world will surrender 10% of its population annually for biological integration studies. Lisa gasped. You're talking about millions of people. You will comply or you will be expelled from council space. Your choice is simple. Cooperate, or face the consequences of defying the galactic order. Burke activated his communication device. Admiral Morrison, did you receive that transmission? Morrison's voice came through clearly. He had been listening to everything. Message received, Captain. Preparing response. Zethkar laughed. It was a cold, hissing sound. Your admiral cannot help you. You have 3 days to begin compliance. Harvest ships are already moving toward your worlds. Burke and Lisa were escorted back to their ship. As they left the station, Burke sent a coded message to all human colonies. Prepare for immediate evacuation. Protocol Omega was about to begin. The council had crossed a line they didn't even know existed. They thought they understood humans. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Admiral Morrison sat in his command center surrounded by screens showing ship positions across the galaxy. His staff waited for orders. The council had just declared war on humanity. They just didn't know it yet. Activate all sleeper protocols, Morrison said quietly. Begin Phase 1 of Omega. Across the galaxy, human ships began to disappear from their normal positions. To council sensors, it looked like humanity was retreating in fear. They couldn't have been more wrong. The harvest ships arrived at New Eden to find the planet evacuated except for a single beacon. The message it transmitted was simple. You crossed the line. We erased it. The real war was about to begin. Admiral Jack Morrison stood in the war room deep below Earth's surface. The room had been built 50 years ago, back when humanity first learned they weren't alone in the galaxy. Dozens of screens showed star maps, ship positions, and communication channels. His staff worked quietly at their stations. General Kate Sullivan entered the room carrying a thick folder. She was Morrison's oldest friend and his most trusted officer. They had served together for 25 years. Jack, all human ships are in position, she said. The Council thinks we're running scared. Their harvest fleets are moving toward our colonies without any escort. Morrison nodded. How long until they reach New Eden? 18 hours. The lead ship is the Hegemony's Pride, Council Prime Zethkar's personal harvest vessel. It carries a crew of 3,000. Perfect. What about our stealth ships? Kate smiled grimly. Commander Nick Parker reports all shadow vessels are ready. The Council still has no idea we developed cloaking technology. Their sensors can't detect our ships even when we're right next to them. Morrison had been planning for this day since humans first joined the Council. He knew the older species looked down on humanity. He suspected they might try to exploit human colonies someday, but he never imagined they would treat humans like farm animals. General, activate the Phantom Protocol. I want every Council military base monitored. If they so much as sneeze, I want to know about it. Kate left to carry out the orders. Morrison turned to the main display screen. It showed the positions of Council harvest fleets moving toward human space. Soon they would learn that humanity was not as helpless as they appeared. Dr. Alex Chen worked in his laboratory 3 levels below the war room. He was a small, quiet man who had spent 15 years developing weapons the Council couldn't imagine. His latest creation sat on the workbench before him. It looked like a simple metal sphere no bigger than a baseball. Computer, run final diagnostic on nanite deployment system, Chen said. All systems operational. Nanite swarms are programmed for reptilian, insectoid, and aquatic Council species. Deployment will cause complete nervous system shutdown without permanent damage. Chen picked up the sphere. Inside were billions of microscopic robots, each one designed to target specific alien biology. The nanites would shut down alien nervous systems for exactly 24 hours, then dissolve harmlessly. It was the perfect non-lethal weapon. His assistant, Dr. Amy Foster, entered the lab. Alex, the Admiral wants to know if the special packages are ready. Tell him we have enough nanite spheres to disable every Council ship in their harvest fleets. They won't know what hit them. Commander Nick Parker sat in the captain's chair of the stealth ship Silent Hunter. His vessel was invisible to all known sensors. Around him, his crew of 40 specialists prepared for their mission. These were the best soldiers humanity had ever produced. Sir, we're in position near Council Station Alpha, reported his tactical officer. No sign they've detected us. Parker studied the massive station on his screen. It was the Council's primary military command center. Over 50,000 aliens lived and worked there. In a few hours, it would be completely helpless. Begin deployment of infiltration pods. I want nanite packages placed in their main computer cores, life support systems, and communication arrays. When we activate them, that station goes dark. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Invisible human ships moved into position near every major Council installation. Humanity had been preparing for this war for decades. The Council was about to discover just how thoroughly they had been outmaneuvered. The harvest ship Hegemony's Pride dropped out of hyperspace near New Eden. Captain Veltar, a massive insectoid creature, studied the planet on his screens. Something was wrong. His sensors showed no signs of human activity. Navigation, confirm our coordinates, Veltar ordered. We are in the correct system, Captain. This is definitely New Eden. Then where are the humans? The ship's communication. Officer, a young reptilian named Kess, looked up from her station. Sir, I'm receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. It's just a simple beacon repeating the same message. Put it on the main speakers. A human voice filled the bridge. The words were calm and clear. You crossed the line. We erased. Veltar felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. Scan the entire system. Find those humans. The crew worked frantically, but their sensors found nothing. 2 million humans had simply vanished without a trace. On Earth, Admiral Morrison watched the Council's confusion with satisfaction. Every human colony had been evacuated within 72 hours. It was the largest military operation in human history, and the Council never saw it coming. Sir, General Sullivan reported, all harvest fleets have reached their target systems. They're finding empty worlds and broadcast beacons. Council communications are going crazy trying to figure out what happened. Good. Phase 2 begins now. Across the galaxy. Things started going wrong for the Council. At their primary weapons facility on Kepler Station, all the computers suddenly shut down. The lights went out. Life support systems failed. Within minutes, the entire station was drifting helplessly in space. At Council Fleet Base 7, Admiral Grixton was reviewing deployment orders when every screen in the command center went black. Emergency power kicked in, but their main computers were completely dead. Worse, their long-range communications were offline. "Get me a status report," Grixton ordered. "Sir, it's not just us. We're receiving emergency signals from bases across the sector. Everyone is experiencing simultaneous system failures." Similar reports came in from across Council space. Military, installations, communication networks, supply depots, and research facilities all suffered mysterious technical problems at exactly the same time. Council Prime Zethkar paced angrily in his private chambers aboard the Hegemony's Pride. The harvest operation was supposed to be simple. Land on human worlds, collect their quota of specimens, and return to Council space. Instead, they found empty planets and cryptic messages. "Premier, we're receiving reports from across our territory," his aide reported nervously. "Our military infrastructure is experiencing widespread failures. It appears to be coordinated." "Coordinated by whom?" "The humans are a primitive species with no advanced technology. Sir, perhaps we underestimated them." Zethkar's eyes flashed with anger. "Impossible. We have studied them for decades. They have no weapons that could threaten us. They have no ships we cannot detect. They are insects compared to our power." Even as he spoke, Zethkar felt doubt creeping into his mind. The simultaneous failures were too precise to be coincidental. Someone with incredible technical ability was systematically dismantling Council operations. Commander Parker watched from his invisible ship as Council Station Alpha went dark. The nanites had done their work perfectly. 50,000 aliens were now unconscious, their station drifting powerlessly through space. They would wake up in 24 hours with massive headaches but no permanent damage. "Sir, we're receiving reports from all shadow ships. Phase 2 is complete. Every major Council installation is offline." Parker activated his communication system. "Admiral Morrison, Operation Silent Strike is successful. Council military capability has been reduced by 70%. Morrison's voice came through clearly. "Excellent work, Commander. Begin Phase 3. Time to let them know who they're dealing with." On the bridge of the Hegemony's Pride, Captain Veltar stared at his screens in disbelief. Reports were flooding in from across Council space. Their entire military network was collapsing. Bases went offline one by one. Supply lines were severed with surgical precision. It was as if an invisible army was systematically destroying their infrastructure. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission. It's coming from everywhere at once. Every communication channel, every frequency. Someone has taken control of our entire network. Put it through." The screens filled with the image of Admiral Morrison. He sat calmly in what appeared to be a military command center. Behind him, dozens of humans worked at advanced computer stations. "I am Admiral Jack Morrison of the United Human Defense Force," he began. "For 37 years, humanity has been part of your council. We followed your laws. We respected your authority. We believed in galactic cooperation." Morrison leaned forward slightly. "You have shattered that trust. You declared us livestock. You demanded our people for your experiments. You threatened to destroy our colonies if we refused to comply." The Admiral's voice remained calm, but his eyes were cold as ice. "The Galactic Council has crossed a line. In response, we have erased that line. Your military infrastructure no longer exists. Your communication networks belong to us. Your supply lines have been severed." Veltar felt terror creeping through his body. This calm human was describing the destruction of everything the Council had built over thousands of years. "But this is just the beginning," Morrison continued. "You wanted to harvest our people. You wanted to study our biology. You wanted to understand what makes humans special." Morrison smiled, and it was the most frightening expression Veltar had ever seen. "Allow me to show you. What makes humans special is not our genetics. It's not our biology. It's our refusal to accept that anyone has the right to treat us as property. When you threaten our families, our children, our way of life, we don't negotiate. We don't compromise. President Helen Davis sat in her office overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. The room was simple and comfortable, nothing like the grand chambers the council leaders preferred. She had been humanities leader for 8 years, but today would define her entire presidency. General Sullivan entered carrying several data tablets. Madam President, the galaxy is responding to Admiral Morrison's broadcast. We're receiving messages from dozens of species. What kind of messages? Requests for protection. It seems many. Species have been waiting for someone to challenge the Council's authority. The Velnari, the Korath, even some of the Andromedan colonies want to join our side. Davis looked at the star charts on her wall. Red dots marked Council territories. Blue dots showed human space. Green dots were appearing rapidly, species declaring their independence from Council rule. How many have defected so far? 17 species have formally withdrawn from the Council. 23 more have requested human protection from Council retaliation. Madam President, the Council's authority is collapsing faster than we expected. Davis nodded. What about our military situation? Admiral Morrison reports that all major Council installations are under our control. Their fleets are scattered and confused. Most are trying to return to their home systems, but we've cut off their fuel supply lines. Colonel Steve Martinez stood in the ruins of a Council labor camp on the planet Xerion. His ground forces had liberated the facility 3 hours ago. What they found inside made his blood boil with anger. Thousands of beings from dozens of species were kept in tiny cells. Many were children. All showed signs of medical experimentation. The Council had been using these prisoners for genetic research for decades. Colonel, you need to see this, his medical officer called out. Martinez followed him to a large room filled with glass containers. Inside each container was a different alien species, suspended in some kind of fluid. They were alive but unconscious. What is this place? It's a biological storage facility. The Council has been keeping live specimens of every species they've encountered. Look at the labels. Martinez read the tags on the containers. Each one listed a species name, genetic markers, and experimental procedures. His heart stopped when he saw containers labeled Human, Genetic Enhancement Subject. How many humans? 237, all taken from various colonies over the past 20 years. Martinez activated his communication device. Admiral Morrison, we've found human prisoners at the Xerion facility. Medical condition appears stable, but they've been experimented on extensively. Morrison's voice came through clearly. Rescue them immediately. Document everything you find. The galaxy needs to see what the Council has been doing. Similar discoveries were being made across Council space. Every facility human forces captured revealed new horrors. The Council hadn't just been studying humans. They had been experimenting on dozens of species for centuries. Engineer Amy Foster worked frantically in her laboratory aboard the research vessel Discovery. Her team had just captured a Council planet killer weapon, and she was studying its design with growing amazement and disgust. The energy output is incredible, she told her assistant. This weapon could destroy an entire star system. But look at the targeting system. The weapon's computer contained detailed scans of thousands of planets. Not just military targets, but civilian worlds with billions of inhabitants. They were planning to use this against populated worlds, her assistant whispered. Not just planning. Look at these logs. They've used it before. 7 star systems completely destroyed over the past 300 years. Billions of lives erased because those species refused to submit to Council authority. Foster transmitted her findings to Admiral Morrison. The planet killer was proof that the Council would commit genocide to maintain their power. It justified everything humanity was doing in response. On the Council capital world of Zentara, panic filled the streets. News of military defeats and species defections spread quickly. Council Prime Zethkar had disappeared, and rumors said he was planning something desperate. Councillor Veltar, the insectoid who had questioned the human ultimatum, met secretly with other moderate Council members. The war was going badly. and many wanted to negotiate before things got worse. We should offer terms, Veltar suggested. The humans have proven their point. Perhaps we can reach an agreement. Counselor Grixnal, an aquatic species, shook his head. Zethkar will never agree to negotiations. He's convinced the humans are bluffing. He believes our superior numbers will eventually overwhelm them. Superior numbers mean nothing if we can't coordinate our forces, Veltar replied. The humans control our communication networks. Our fleets can't even talk to each other. Before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the capital. Emergency broadcasts filled every screen and speaker in the city. This is Council Prime Zethkar, the reptilian leader's voice announced. The human insects have dared to challenge our ancient authority. They have forgotten their place in the natural order. Today we remind them why we rule the galaxy. The broadcast showed Zethkar standing in what appeared to be a massive weapons control room. Behind him, technicians worked at stations controlling the most powerful weapon in Council history. Humans value their homeworld above all else, Zethkar continued. Without Earth, their spirit will be broken. Today, we destroy their planet and end their rebellion once and for all. The transmission ended. Every Council citizen realized what was happening. Their leader was planning to commit genocide against humanity's entire homeworld. Admiral Morrison watched the broadcast from his command center. His staff looked at him with concern, waiting for orders. The Council had just threatened to destroy Earth itself. Sir, should we begin evacuating Earth? General Sullivan asked. Morrison smiled calmly. No need, General. Activate the shield protocols. Sir? Kate, did you really think we spent 40 years in space without developing planetary defense systems? Earth has been protected by quantum barrier shields for the past 15 years. No known weapon can penetrate them. Morrison activated the communication system. All ships prepare for final phase operations. The Council has just authorized the use of genocide weapons against civilian targets. Moral constraints are now officially removed. Engineer Foster's voice came through the speakers. Admiral, I've finished analyzing the planet killer. The weapon is powered by exotic matter cores. If we can disrupt those cores at the quantum level, the entire system will shut down permanently. How long do you need? Give me 30 minutes and access to our quantum manipulation arrays. You have it. Colonel Martinez, what's the status of prisoner rescue operations? Martinez reported from another liberated Council facility. We've rescued over 3,000 beings so far, including 400 humans. The evidence of Council war crimes is overwhelming. Every species they've controlled has been subjected to biological experimentation. Morrison nodded grimly. The Council's atrocities were worse than humanity had imagined. This wasn't just about genetic harvesting. It was about systematic oppression of every species in the galaxy. Council Prime Zethkar stood before the planet killer's main control panel. The weapon was charging, building up energy to destroy Earth's entire solar system. He would show these upstart humans the price of defying ancient authority. Weapon charging at 80%, his weapons officer reported. Excellent. Target confirmed as the Sol system? Yes, Premier. Earth will be completely destroyed along with all human colonies in that sector. Zethkar felt satisfaction flowing through him. Soon the human rebellion would be crushed, and order would be restored to the galaxy. Charging complete. Ready to fire on your command. Zethkar raised his clawed hand. Fire. Nothing happened. I said fire the weapon. The weapons officer looked confused. Sir, the system is not responding. All controls have been locked out. Warning alarms began sounding throughout the facility. Every screen flickered and went black, then displayed the same message. System override, authorization, human defense force. Admiral Morrison's face appeared on every display in the facility. Council Prime Zethkar, you just attempted to commit genocide against my homeworld. Thank you for removing any moral constraints from our response. Zethkar felt cold terror creeping through his body. Impossible. This facility is completely secure. No human technology could penetrate our defenses. Morrison smiled. Your facility was never secure. We've been inside your systems for weeks. Your planet killer now belongs to us. Your command codes have been changed. Your weapon is permanently disabled. The admiral leaned forward. You ordered the extermination of 4 billion humans. You crossed the final line. There is no negotiation now, no surrender, no mercy. Morrison's expression hardened. You wanted to see what makes humans special? Here it is. When you threaten our families, our children, our entire species, we don't just fight back. We end the threat forever. The transmission cut out. Throughout the council facility, human soldiers appeared from nowhere. They had been invisible, using cloaking technology the council didn't know existed. Within minutes, every council officer was unconscious, disabled by nanite weapons. Zethkar found himself surrounded by human soldiers led by Colonel Martinez. The reptilian leader tried to speak, but the nanites had temporarily paralyzed his vocal. 5 years had passed since the fall of the Galactic Council. The galaxy looked completely different now. Where once 12 species ruled over all others, now hundreds of species worked together as equals. Ambassador John Wright stood in the main Hall of Unity Station, the new galactic government headquarters. Unlike the Council's intimidating chambers, this place was designed to welcome all species. Representatives from 93 different worlds sat together, making decisions that affected billions of lives. Wright was humanity's chief diplomatic representative, but he held no special authority. That had been humanity's choice from the beginning. They could have ruled the galaxy after their victory, but they chose something better. Ambassador Wright, called out Representative Mirhan, a Velnari who served as the current coalition speaker. The tribunal is ready to deliver its final verdict. Wright nodded and followed Mirhan to the courtroom. After 5 years of trials, the last council leader was about to be sentenced. The galaxy had been waiting for this moment. The courtroom was packed with beings from dozens of species. Many were survivors of council experiments. Others were family members of those who had died in council labor camps. Everyone wanted to see justice finally served. Former Council Prime Zethkar sat in the defendant's chair, looking much older than he had 5 years ago. His golden scales had dulled, and his once proud bearing was broken. He wore simple prison clothes instead of his elaborate robes of office. Judge Patricia Stone, a human who had been elected by the coalition to oversee the trials, entered the courtroom. She had spent 3 years reviewing evidence, hearing testimony, and ensuring that every defendant received a fair trial. This tribunal has reviewed all evidence in the case of former Council Prime Zethkar, Judge Stone announced. The defendant has been found guilty of genocide, biological crimes against sapient species, slavery, and crimes against galactic peace. The courtroom was silent. Everyone knew the penalty for these crimes. However, Judge Stone continued, this tribunal recognizes that the defendant has cooperated fully with investigations. He has provided information that helped us locate and rescue thousands of prisoners. He has expressed genuine remorse for his actions. Zethkar looked up with hope in his eyes. Therefore, this tribunal sentences the defendant to life imprisonment, with the possibility of parole after 25 years, provided he continues to assist in reparation efforts. Some in the courtroom looked disappointed. They had wanted harsher punishment, but Wright understood the decision. Humanity had chosen justice over revenge from the beginning. After the trial, Wright met with Admiral Sandra Phillips, who had taken over from the retired Admiral Morrison. They walked through the memorial garden that honored all those who had died under council rule. Some people think we were too soft on the council leaders, Phillips said. Maybe, Wright replied. But we didn't fight this war to become the new tyrants. We fought it to make sure no one could ever be a tyrant again. They stopped at a memorial wall listing the names of every being who had died in council labor camps. The list was thousands of names long, representing hundreds of species. The important thing is that it's over, Phillips said. The council system is gone forever. Is it, though? Wright asked. What if another species tries to dominate the galaxy someday? Phillips smiled. Then they'll learn the same lesson the council learned. Humanity doesn't draw lines in the sand. We don't make threats. When we say something is unacceptable, we change reality to make it impossible. The memorial garden was peaceful now, but Wright remembered the early days after the war. Many council species had been angry and resentful. Their technology had been shut down overnight. Their vast empires had crumbled. Some had called for revenge against humanity. But something unexpected had happened. Instead of becoming bitter enemies, many former council species had become humanity's strongest allies. The secret was how humanity had handled their victory. Dr. Alex Chen, now director of Galactic Rehabilitation, had led the effort to help former council worlds rebuild. Instead of leaving them in primitive conditions, humanity had provided new technology. Clean technology. Technology that couldn't be used for weapons or oppression. We could have left them in the Stone Age, Chen had explained to Wright years ago. But that would have made us just another conquering empire. Instead, we gave them something better than what they lost. The former council homeworlds now had cleaner air, better food production, and longer lifespans than they had enjoyed during the council era. Their children grew up learning cooperation instead of domination. Wright remembered visiting the former council capital of Zentara 2 years ago. The city had been transformed. Where once massive monuments to council power had stood, now there were parks and schools. Children from a dozen different species played together in the streets. President Davis, now in her second term, had made it clear from the beginning what humanity's role would be. "We are not the new rulers," she had said. "We are the guardians. Our job is to make sure the galaxy remains free." The Free Species Coalition had grown from 43 founding members to over 200 worlds. Each species contributed according to their abilities. The aquatic Cathari provided the best medical technology. The insect-like Zorith had developed incredible farming techniques. The crystalline Velnari created beautiful art that inspired beings across the galaxy. Humanity's contribution was protection. Human ships patrolled trade routes, ensuring that no pirates or warlords could threaten merchant vessels. Human soldiers trained peacekeeping forces for worlds that requested help. Human engineers helped build defenses for colonies that felt threatened, but humanity never imposed their will on other species. The coalition was truly democratic. Every member world had an equal vote, regardless of size or military power. Wright visited the Prisoner Rehabilitation Center on Unity Station. Former council officials were learning new skills, preparing for their eventual release. Many worked in the memorial archives, documenting the history of council atrocities to ensure they were never forgotten. He found former councillor Veltar working in the botanical gardens. The insectoid had been sentenced to 10 years in prison, but his cooperation had earned him early release. Now he grew food for the station's diverse population. "Ambassador Wright," Veltar said respectfully, "how are the memorial preparations going?" "Very well. The unveiling is scheduled for next week. Your contribution to the historical record has been invaluable." Veltar nodded sadly. "It is the least I can do. I was part of a system that caused immense suffering. I want to ensure that future generations understand the consequences of allowing power to concentrate in the hands of a few." Wright studied the former councillor. 5 years ago, this being had voted to harvest human genetic material. Now he was one of the coalition's most effective advocates for species equality. "Do you ever regret the old system?" Wright asked. "Never," Veltar replied immediately. "The council gave us power, but it made us monsters. The coalition gives us purpose. I would rather be free and equal than powerful and corrupt." Wright left the rehabilitation center feeling hopeful. Change was possible, even for those who had committed terrible crimes. Later that day, Wright attended a coalition assembly session. Representatives from across the galaxy were debating trade agreements, scientific research cooperation, and cultural exchange programs. It was messy and sometimes loud, but it was democracy in action. Representative Mirhan called for order. "We have a proposal from the Andromedan colonies to establish a new research station for studying peaceful applications of quantum technology." The debate that followed was spirited but respectful. Some species worried about the costs. Others questioned whether such advanced research was necessary. Eventually, they reached a compromise that satisfied everyone. Wright watched the proceedings with satisfaction. This was what they had fought for, not human dominance, but a galaxy where every species had a voice. As the session ended, a young human journalist approached Wright. "Ambassador, some people say humanity could have ruled the galaxy after defeating the Council. Do you ever wonder what that would have been like?" Wright thought for a moment. "Every empire in galactic history eventually fell. They all made the same mistake. They confused power with strength. Real strength comes from knowing when not to use your power." "What do you mean?" "We could have enslaved the Council species like they enslaved others. We could have taken their resources, their worlds, their freedom. But then we would have become what we fought against. The galaxy would have learned to fear us instead of trust us." Wright pointed to the mixed groups of beings walking through Unity Station. Humans, former Council species, and dozens of other races working together. "This is our real victory. Not conquest, but cooperation. Not fear, but friendship." The Council crossed a line they thought we had drawn. They learned too late that when humans draw a line, it's not a boundary, it's a promise. The journalist looked confused. "What kind of promise?" Wright smiled. "That the line will never need to be drawn again." As Wright walked home through the peaceful corridors of Unity Station, he reflected on how much had changed. The galaxy was more prosperous than it had ever been under Council rule. Trade flourished between equal partners. Scientific advancement accelerated as